All right, we're going. Am I on here? Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. We still have some discussion up here within the. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the House Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Committee, and we have some items that have been brought to us from the from subcommittees. And I haven't even looked at the agenda, so let me see what the first one is. Okay. All right. Which one was Ann? I'm going to ask for Ann Purcell's first. I'm going to, Representative Chairman Purcell, are you here? I just saw you a minute ago. I'm going to recognize you first to present your bill. And before I do that, this came from the Telecommunications Subcommittee. I'll recognize Chairman Martin to give us a subcommittee report.
Chairman, if you got me there, your subcommittee on telecommunications brings to you today House Bill 1080 with a due pass recommendation, LC 362106.
Thank you. So make sure I don't think your turn your mic on. Chairman Purcell, if you would present House Bill 1080, looks like it's LC 362106.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. The department, GEMA, or the agency, asked us to bring this bill. We passed House Bill 256 last year, which basically eliminated most of the powers of the Georgia Emergency Telephone number 911 through the advisory committee through GEMA. So what this bill would be doing is eliminating the advisory committee in regards to GEMA through that agency. As we passed House Bill 256 last year, what it did was it took those appointments where what the normal rules and regs asked this advisory committee to do, it's taken care of in House Bill 256. It's taken care of through our Public Safety Department and through, with the fees collection, the Department of Revenue. So they have come to us and asked us if we would eliminate the advisory committee in regards to this, since they are not an active committee. They're required to meet 3 times a year, and they really have nothing to meet on. This does not change in any way whatsoever what the mission of GEMA is all about. That continues that need of providing the services throughout the state in the case of emergency and being there for our local folks. But what we're doing is doing a little bit of housekeeping here because of the bill we passed last year, which is House Bill 256.
All right. Looks like there's a question. Would you take a question?
Okay, certainly.
Okay. Representative Chairman Hamilton.
To my friend Chairwoman Purcell, isn't it nice to be involved in legislation that I'm assuming that you're not receiving any death threats on?
You're right. And ladies and gentlemen, I am receiving death threats.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And he is accurate in his statement. Thank you.
It's amazing how vile some people can get down here. And I hope that those emails that you've received, those death threats, have been forwarded to the appropriate people so that action can be taken. You know, it's one thing for people to be angry with us and to say things, but to actually put in writing death threats is pretty amazing. So I appreciate your courage and confidence and appreciate you very much for what you do.
Any further questions from members of the committee? Don't see any. What is the will of the committee? Second. There's a motion to do pass with a second. House Bill 1080, LC 362106. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed by saying no. House Bill 1080 passes with a due pass recommendation, and Chairman Purcell, you can take that to the Rules Committee and ask for it to be put on the consent calendar.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Let's go to this one. Okay, we're going to take up House Bill 1160. We have a substitute that came out of Chairman Martin's subcommittee. Chairman Martin, you would give us a Let me turn you on. You're number 9. There you go.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, your telecom subcommittee brings to you House Bill 1160 with due pass recommendation by committee substitute. If the chair is interested, the change that was made at the subcommittee was on line 18 to require a supermajority of the commission members to call for an election in midterm. On line 18, the word 3 was changed to 4 members of the commission. That was a motion to amend and passed by committee sub. Comes to you with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. Recognize Chairman Roberts to present House Bill 1160.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I bring today the substitute to House Bill 1160. What 1160 seeks to do is allow for the PSC members to elect their chairman. You know, a lot of your county commissions back home, they elect their chairman. We in our chamber elect our leader. You know, so we have that self-interest that we believe in the person that's leading us, that he or she is going to do the job and do the job right. It also allows for, if you'll look down through, you'll see that the chairperson can only serve 2 consecutive 2-year terms. Also, it allows in here now, after the subcommittee, any 4 members of the commission may call for an election. In other words, if the chairman is not doing the job, then they have the opportunity to remove he or she from that position and have another election by 4 members. I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? I don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any questions. Normally we don't do testimony here in the full committee, just following the pattern and what's been done over the last years that I've been here. But since this does affect the chairman of the PSC, and I know he's here, if you would like to say, if you could just limit it to maybe less than 2 minutes is the only thing I would ask. I'll give you the opportunity to address us.
If I may, while the chair approaches, the chair did ask, he had a conflict, and he intended to attend our meeting, so he had a conflict, and asked that a letter be read. We did read that on his behalf, but I appreciate the chair allowing Chairman Eccles to speak to the committee this morning.
Thanks, Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for making the exception. Allow me to speak. The packet I just handed you out, I will just make very brief comments about my concern about the bill. The first page is the change that the Senate made. Let me say that the change that the committee, that Chairman Martin's committee made yesterday, I think was a good change. And I want you to know, as it goes over to the Senate, I will not oppose that change because I really feel like it strengthened the bill and was a good change. The change that the Senate made is circled on the first sheet. And I think in order to keep the bill from coming back over here, I would like to ask the committee to make this change because I believe that the Senate committee is committed to making this change and changing the effective date of the bill, which essentially, Mr. Chairman, allows me to finish out my term before we enact this. The second page is the letter I sent to Chairman Martin yesterday, outlining the main reasons for my opposition to the bill. That essentially, what happened in 1991, that the House really was upset with the PSC because the PSC, it took 5 tries and they couldn't elect their own chairman. You can see on page 3 the article from the AJC in 1991. The Speaker shakes a finger at the PSC. And then page 4 and 5 really demonstrate that not a lot has changed at the PSC. Page 5 is confidential. I would ask you to shred that document. It has not been made available to the media. I'm not interested in embarrassing any colleague, and I do not intend for this document to be out in the public. So I would ask respectfully that you shred that document. So I feel like with Vogel ahead of us, Mr. Chairman, and with the need to reduce the UAF, which Mr. Chairman and several chairmen here, I think you've given us an explicit instruction to do that. I just think we need to be focused on the regulatory matters at hand and injecting any additional controversy or divisiveness into the commission is going to distract us. I can assure you it is going to distract us. And this page 4 and 5 is only a small sampling of what has gone on, and we need to be really focused. And I'm open for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions from any questions from members of the committee? You, Chairman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, I have a question or several questions. As you made reference to, back during last year, there was a certain telecommunication company that was asking for $2.5 million of money in the high-cost UAF fund, and staff recommendation was $303,000. And then it's my understanding that the PSC board commissioners, when you voted on that board, it was voted on and the results were 3-2, of which you were one of the two. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Chairman.
In approving a $2.2 million payment to that company, and then subsequent to that, that company at the end of the year paid a $2 million dividend to its shareholders. Is that not correct?
That is correct, sir.
And so you wouldn't suggest that this legislation has any payback or any intention on dealing with you because of your stance of supporting good government and protecting the consumers of this great state?
I'll have to say, Chairman, that a number of things I've said have been controversial. I've talked about legislative intent at the commission. I've had commissioners and staff say to me, legislative intent doesn't matter. Legislative intent is whatever we believe it is. And I respectfully disagree with that philosophy. I've taken people to task in public. I've questioned Georgia Power very diligently. And sir, I have taken an enormous amount of flack for this. And I'm not saying there's necessarily any retribution going on here. I don't know. But I'm going to continue to take a stand, even if I'm removed as chairman, because I feel that's the right thing to do.
Thank you. One follow-up comment would be that, and I would agree, I don't necessarily agree with some of your statements and methods and some of the things you do, so it's not a comment of support or opposition to you, but on this one issue that I'm very passionate about, and I will tell you there are many people in the House of Representatives, including leadership, that are very interested in pursuing why this situation has occurred. And so I appreciate your support on trying to protect the consumers of this great state on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the chairman of the PSC? I don't see any. Thank you. I would just a couple procedural statements I would like to make. First of all, to my knowledge, as far as the chair is concerned, this bill, I've given the chairman of the PSC the opportunity to speak because of his position. But to my knowledge, this bill or any bills that have been in the House the last few years regarding the election of the PSC chairman has had nothing to do with any individual person. So that. And number two, as far as this bill going to the Senate, I believe the lieutenant governor assigns bills to committee over there, so there's no assurance that it would go to the same committee, so it wouldn't necessarily be going to the same group over there to review this legislation that reviewed apparently a similar piece a day or two ago. So with that, any other questions or anything we want to take up before we look at the bill? Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, I was just, when you're ready to move forward on the bill, I would like to move to pass.
Okay. What is the will of the committee? Okay, we have a motion to, let's see, make sure I've got the right one in front of me here, to have a due pass on House Bill 1160, subcommittee substitute, which is LC 362150S. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Chairman Martin.
Under discussion, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move an amendment, if I could, and then have an opportunity at the appropriate time to explain why the amendment is being moved now and not in subcommittee yesterday.
Okay, this be the time.
On line 54 of the bill, Mr. Chairman, I would like to strike starting after effective upon and through the end of line 55 approval, and in lieu thereof insert on December 31, 2012. So section 2 would read, if my amendment is approved, this act shall become effective on December 31st to December 31, comma, 2012, period.
Okay. You want to make that motion?
Yes, sir. I would
Okay.
like to
There's
make
a motion
to
for an
amend the
amendment,
substitute.
and there's a second. All in favor of that?
Mr. May I explain my amendment?
Oh, yes.
Just or speak to it if I can. I just wanted to speak to the amendment. I chaired the subcommittee yesterday, and had I not been the chair of the committee, I would have offered the amendment at that time. I respect all 5 members of the Public Service Commission. You gentlemen run statewide. You get more votes than I do. I do the best I can represent the 47th, and I respect everything. I don't know what's going on over there. I know, gosh knows, I have a difference of agreement with, my fellow members in both parties in the House. Sometimes I'll even have a disagreement with my leadership. We try to have those discussions. I would encourage you all to do this. If there's something that needs to be changed, this bill will allow it to be changed. I support the election and have previously supported the election of a chairperson. I just feel like at this point it should not be directed, and I don't necessarily think it is directed at an individual. It may be directed at some things that are going on. But I think moving this bill to effective date of December 2012 will allow the election to go forward as we would want in the future. But in the meantime, I would encourage the commission to work out whatever you got going on there. And remember, you have 9 million plus Georgians that you're tasked and elected to represent. And we should spend our time doing that. I'd encourage you to do that. Mr. Chairman, that's why I'm moving the amendment today. As chair of the meeting yesterday, I didn't feel like I was in a position to do so. I appreciate the chair's entertaining the motion in full committee.
Thank you. Any further, any other discussion or any other comments on the amendment that's been put forward? I want to ask the author if he objects to the amendment. Okay, thank you. All right, on the, yes, sir. You did what now?
I have that amendment drafted before the gentleman spoke.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. All right. We have the Martin amendment, and it's been, I think we had a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, we have the amendment passes. Any further discussion on the bill, on this substitute that we're putting together? Any further discussion? So we have House Bill 1160. We have a motion to do pass with a second. House Bill 1160 as a substitute to House, a committee substitute to House Bill 1160. Is that correct? Is that the way we're doing it? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. House Bill 1160 is passed with due pass recommendation, and it's eligible to be taken to rules for the consent calendar. Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. All right. And I think we have one more bill. What is that? We have House Bill 1115, and I think that also comes out of the Telecommunications Subcommittee. Chairman Martin.
Chairman, I'm looking for my copy. Oh, I hear it. Here we go. Your Telecommunications Subcommittee met yesterday on House Bill 1115. It brings it to you today with a due pass recommendation, LC 362114.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bringing you into House Bill 1115. This bill has 3 major parts to it. The bulk of the bill, all the sections except for the ones I'm going to talk about, simply strike all references to telegraph companies from the code. You would think that we don't need to be worried about telegraph companies anymore, and we actually had testimony from the PSC that we actually don't have any telegraph companies in Georgia, just in case you were wondering. So the bulk of what you see as far as the text is all just strike out of that telegraph language. But there are a couple sections which are actually more or different than that. I want to call those to your attention. Section 5, towards the end of that, simply eliminates some code language about some stuff that was done after the deregulation in 1995 that was effective for 4 years, and that also, this reporting is now obsolete. Obviously, that's been obsolete for over 12 years. So that just deletes an obsolete reporting requirement in Section 5. In Section 8, that was a report around how telecommunication providers were going to deal with live operators. And according to testimony, that report has not been used in 12 years, and I don't think live operators, it doesn't change anything about whether people provide that service or not, but just, again, we're getting rid of some of this unnecessary reporting and regulation. The meat of the bill, the thing that's the most substantive, I'll call your attention to, is on page 6, lines 176 through 179. And what this does, this would say that a telecommunication company which is alternatively regulated and does not take any money from the UAF, they meet those two conditions, and they would also be resolved of their carrier of last resort obligations. This, from a practical point of view, will not change anything in Georgia for right now. Right now, the FCC has governing regs on this, and they require the carrier of last resort obligations. And in the subcommittee, we had 2 hearings on this because we wanted to make very sure and assure all the committee members we dug into the gory details with FCC rulings and what the governing law is. And the FCC has a procedure where if the PSC were to approve and you had overlapping carriers, then they could let one person get out of carrier last resort as long as they could still prove that the other company was available to provide that service. But from a practical point of view, the reason for this is not because we're trying to get out of it, is that there's a lot of state laws on this, and the telecommunication companies are trying to unwind some of the state laws because FCC is looking to move the carrier of last resort to a more modern procedure than they have today, where they might actually bid it out to a particular company who would service in the area. And we want to make sure that the states are sort of neutral on this and let the FCC be able to move this regulation to a more modern situation in the future. Again, it does not mean that we're going to not have universal service. It does not mean that we're going to be able to tell people they can't be the carrier of last resort. It doesn't mean that. So we're just trying to unwind this particular regulation so that we can modernize in the future. So that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to answer questions.
Have any questions for the author? Don't see any.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you. We have House Bill 1115, LC 362114. What is the will of the committee? We have a motion to do pass and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor indicate their approval by saying aye. Any opposed say no. House Bill 1115, LC 362114 gets a do pass recommendation, goes on the Rules Committee where it's eligible to be put on the consent calendar. Thank you. And with that, I would just say this probably will be the last meeting before day 30. It may not be, but it probably will be. So with that, if there's nothing from the committee members, we're adjourned. Thank you.